Wonderful. Thank you so, so much. It's an absolute delight to be here, an honor. I will be 100% congruent and say this is the very first time that I've been asked to share and to come as a guest speaker. So I'm a little bit giddy, a little bit nervous, but ultimately knowing that I am here not for me, but to have higher power share what needs to be heard. So a little bit about me, Colette, compulsive eater. I've been in program for about 4.5 years. Um, uh, I will briefly go through my sort of background, my story, how my life panned out to have the wonderful opportunity to be here with you all today. I am eternally grateful for this program. It is the program that has taught me how to live life and a life beyond my wildest dreams. It is a life of freedom, a life of joy, and just immense gratitude. So, backtracking, my story starts as way back in childhood, where I grew up in a home where one part of my family struggled with weight and weight loss and weight gain, and the other side of my family struggled with underweight and anorexia. So my sort of training grounds, if you wish, I didn't really have good food role models around me. And the genetics thrown in there and a whole bunch of other stuff. I found myself that I was drawn to the sugary stuff from a very young age. And because of the nature of the eating difficulties in my house, I was surrounded with weight loss schemes. So when I went into puberty, I became aware of this weight thing and saw the examples around me, how being overweight wasn't accepted, I guess, for some lack of a better word, but the turmoil that came around it and the amount of emphasis that was put on the the food, essentially, the weighing, the measuring, the not eating, the eating, the having it as a and all of that. So really sort of just messy. Really loving home, really, really wonderful, supportive, kind home. So I've got no immense trauma or anything, but just not just genetics and examples where food was a substance that was spoken about a lot. Um, into puberty, this became more and more prevalent for myself. I recognized I was maybe slightly larger than my peers, not excessively, but just slightly larger to feel uncomfortable in active situations, and I guess at that sort of age, I became much more aware of my myself, my body, and I recognized later in life that I started with body dysmorphia quite young. The concept, the size I thought I was probably, I don't know, 6, 7 sizes bigger than I actually was. I remember going to buy clothing. I was at that point of independence and um, went and chose a wardrobe and looked at a pair of shorts on a rail, and I thought that's wonderful. Looked at them, thought, yep, that's about the right size, and I bought them, and they were a size 40, and I was at this age probably maybe 13, 14 years old. And I was nowhere near that size, but did not have the ability to recognize that. The size I felt and the size I actually was weren't the same. So a long relationship and difficult relationship with my body started where um, a lot of emphasis was put on the amount of weight I was carrying, and in short ditch attempts, I would try my hand at some sort of a sport, but it would be intense, um, over the top, and I would end up getting injured with no result. So I started this horrible situation between exercising to try and control the weight and then getting some success with losing weight from the increased activity, and then I would go extreme with the exercise. I would get injured, and then I would fall back to square one. And so my seesaw went for many years, from, gosh, yeah, all of my 20s, all of my 30s, and sort of in my late 30s. I was very fortunate to have a family member who worked in recovery services, and they recognized my pattern with my food, mimic that of other addictions, of other substance addictions. And they, out of the loving kindness of their heart, shared, what you are, how you are showing up in this is really evident, a similar kind of pattern. And I was deeply offended. How very dare they? And how on earth can you be addicted to food? I mean, we all need food to live. How can you, you know, some substances, many of them is not a necessity to survive. And this baffled me. It baffled me for years, but the seed was planted. And I, for the first time, um, was able to see it slightly differently, my relationship with food. It was years until I actually found OA, but that seed was planted that maybe, just maybe, there is a different way around this. I was dreadfully unhappy. It was this continuous battle to yeah, to become at peace with myself. I was deeply discontented, even at times where I have successfully completed one or the other weigh and pay scheme, and always happy when the numbers were going in one direction, and terribly miserable when the numbers were going the opposite direction. Same numbers somewhere in the middle crossed, but depending on the direction of which it was heading was whether I was happy or sad. And I became incredibly compulsive with weighing. I was on the scale, gosh, 10 times a day, before the shower, after the shower, in the middle of the day, at the end of the day, first thing in the morning, last thing at night, with all my clothes on, without all my clothes on. And this was just as obsessive. I couldn't go into the bathroom without pulling out the scales to see what's happened. Something happened. And if it was going one direction, yay, all things happy, and you can just see the roller coaster I was going through um, on every day. And one of the greatest or joys for me when I came into program and I found my recovery and abstinence is I got rid of my bathroom scale, and I haven't owned one for many years, and I've got no idea what my exact weight is. Haven't for years. I've got a rough idea because every so now and again some medical profession has got to have the particular number, and for their purpose they can have a look at it. I'm not interested. And the contrast from from being in that obsessive yo-yo seesaw ride regarding the number that is associated with my body mass versus this complete freedom of doesn't matter. I'm comfortable. I'm healthy. And more than anything, I'm happy and I love my body. I love me. I love every single part of it. And that, if nothing else, is for me a pure miracle. Nothing short of a miracle to go from the position I found myself in some years ago to where I am now. And all to program. All thanks to program, to be able to learn that there is so much more to life than food, and so much more to life than being hung up with the size of the number that's on the label at the back of the clothing I wear. Um, and it's allowed me the space and capacity and the energy and the resources to live life and to just have the most incredible experience, um, sharing and connecting with people that really have gone past the surface layer of life. Surface layer of life is very, yeah. There's I guess just that there's no depth to it, and I really enjoy the ability to connect with those who have gone through the trials and tribulations, that understands me, that understands when I say, 20 times on a scale, say that to somebody else, they think you're absolutely bonkers. And yeah, I am that as well, but I'm okay with that. Um, so for me, recovery came, thank higher power, at the end of 2020, at the end of COVID year. Um, Cooped up in a house all day with very little to do, and yeah, way too much to eat or to try and relieve the boredom. I eventually crawled, and I used the expressive form. It felt like I leopard crawled through Christmas of 2020, because I set my sight, Boxing Day 2020, I was going to start my abstinence journey, and that gave me hope. But my goodness, that last Christmas was torture. Absolute torture, because I knew I was powerless in the run up to it. Celebrations in our house started 3 weeks before the actual Christmas event. So I was on my knees by the time Boxing Day came, and I went to a meeting online, everything everywhere online at the time. What a wonderful gift to be able to do that. And I went to a whole bunch of meetings, met a whole bunch of wonderful people all over the world, and eventually connected with a sponsor. Um, I'm originally from South Africa, as you might pick up on my tone, although now I live in North Wales. Um, and I've come here for the weather, of course, as you do. Well, if you were to look at how it looks in Wales today, then yeah, you could almost believe that. And I connected with a sponsor and worked the following year pretty much all the way through the steps. And unfortunately, my sponsor needed to step away due to health concerns. And I was in a transitionary stage, moving house and all of the rest. And unfortunately, my recovery slipped through my fingers. I stopped going to meetings, I stopped working my program, and lo and behold, I found myself in relapse. But I had hope. I had hope. I'd done 11 months in abstinence, and I felt what it felt like to be free of food obsession, to have space and capacity for me. And I knew it's okay. It's okay. Relapse for me and my journey was as much part of my journey as my abstinence is. And I'm very grateful that I'm now in the balance where my relapse time is much shorter than my recovery time. But I came out of my relapse. I came out, and I came out with clarity and purpose, and I knew that I had not completed the program. Not that you ever complete the spiral staircase, but I did not take step 12. I did everything up to step 11, went through the horrendous step 4, was depressed for about 3 months, but came out the other side, and was so grateful for being able to have that growth. But yes, step 12 didn't happen for me until I went through the relapse and was able to come back. And I knew I had to get myself into service. So I looked up our local meeting, who thankfully at that time just started introducing hybrid meetings back into their schedule. My local group, which is Bangor in North Wales, um, and we're called the Dragons, a Red Dragon is our group, and wonderful group of people. And the first Wednesday of the month, we met in person, and that for me was just magic. Specifically at that time, where post COVID, things were slowly, almost returning to a little bit of how it was before. And as soon as I was at the meeting, I just felt like I've come home. I was just, this is it. This is where I will root. And a service position came up. I grabbed it with both hands, and I became the lead for our group. And I led the meeting for 2 years. I've literally just stepped down from that position a couple of weeks ago because of other service requirements on me. I joined our intergroup and became part of the events committee, and we organized the Region 9 um, Assembly and Convention in Llandudno in 23. Blimey, what a fire, a birth of a fire bath that was, but incredible, incredible fellowship and connecting with people from all over the Region 9 area, which is a huge area if you're not familiar with the spread of that. Um, from there, I was on the intergroup, and I put myself forward to be the Region 9 representative for the upcoming convention. So I found myself in uh, where was I? Greece last year, end of October, beginning of November, for the Region 9 Assembly and Convention as a representative for OA Red Dragon Intergroup. And lo and behold, I was elected to become the digital officer serving on Region 9 board. So, not at all my trajectory path or plan that I had in mind, but higher power had obviously different ideas for me. So, I am immensely blessed. The life from before, where my days were made up from morning to night, standing on a scale, obsessing about what I want to eat, shouldn't eat, can eat, mustn't eat, um, have eaten and wish I didn't eat, and everything relating to that pattern of thinking, to suddenly have them, not suddenly, to now have the mental space and capacity to give service, to meet with sponsees, to um, help in so many capacities, to be involved and connected with people all over the world. My world went from this and whatever was on my plate, to the world, almost literally. And that has been transformative. It's been transformative. I'm learning to live life, um, using the tools, connecting with fellows, with sharing and sharing with honesty. I had to learn to become really honest with myself, um, and through that, it enables me to be honest with others, and from that, I am just able to be free. I'm being able to be free. I don't have to remember who I told what to and what I didn't tell to. I don't have to do that. I can just be me authentically and love me for being okay with that. Um, Currently, where I am in terms of a sponsor, I thankfully met again. I've sought out a new sponsor, and at the Region 9 convention, I thought, right, okay, if ever there was a pool to go and fish for sponsors, this would be it. So I went and looked and spent time with people, observed how they showed up, and really sort of gone, okay, who would work? Who would be really helpful for me? Who would be able to keep me on track, keep me focused? Because I can run in 10 different directions at any time and lose interest in 7 of them after 2 minutes. I need somebody that can hold those reins, keep me on track. So I looked at a few people and I approached somebody and they were amazing, but unfortunately didn't have capacity. And I looked at a few others and they just didn't feel right. And there was one individual and I went, that, and I went, no, can't, no, too strict, can't do it, no, can't. And lo and behold, that's the person who is now my sponsor, who has got decades of experience in program on high up service levels, and I love her to bits. She is no nonsense, no faff, big book, and my gosh, is she working me through the steps. So at this moment, I'm about halfway through, and the experience of going through the steps again after having done them the first time round, losing my way, finding my way back again, not losing my way. Higher power giving me the opportunity to learn what is to be learnt and relapse, and then to be coming back with a new understanding and appreciation for program, and have such an incredible guide to walk alongside me at this leg of my journey. It's just the greatest honor and privilege that I have. Now my throat is getting dry from talking. How long have I been speaking? Where are we with timing?
I think you've got about 10 minutes left, but
Yeah,
Marie, I'll
Colette,
defer to
you've
you.
got 10 minutes 30-ish. Yeah.
Oh, I thought I could talk a lot, but I think I might be talked out.
No
um,
pressure.
that's fine. Let me just have a quick think if there's anything else I can add. I guess another couple of things that's really come to me through program is the ability to be, what's the word? I'm looking for a very particular word. Surrender. That's it. To be able to hand over and trust. Oh, what a huge lesson that has been for me. Um, you know, the need and drive and want to be in full control of absolutely every single part of my life. And I had a conversation with a fellow today where the struggle was really very evident. This, I only need to get grip of this, and if I can avoid that trigger, and if I have all my meals with me, then, and all of this negotiation and bargaining with this huge demon that is food addiction. And the visual image that came up for me was this little individual, me, standing there fighting the fight. Man, am I putting my whole essence behind this? But I'm fighting a an energy, a demon that is huge and looming over me. And as long as I'm standing here fighting this fight, higher power hasn't got the ability to step in and help out. So what I need to do is I need to make myself small. I need to surrender and remove myself, get out of the way, so that higher power, greater than me and greater than my disease, can fight the fight for me, because I can't do it. And remembering that when those voices pipe up, and the should have, would have, could have, want to, shouldn't, maybe just, and all of those kind of things, to just go, no, can't do it, can't do it, can't do it, can't do it, and to disengage. The lesson for me was that, we've got many choices in life. Things come up, we can choose to fight, we can choose to defend, we can choose to be broken, or whatever. There's a whole range of things that we might choose to do in any given set of situations. But the one that I did not know about and that I learned through program was the choice to let go. If I'm in a situation and somebody is really pushing my buttons, I can choose to get angry. I can choose to get hurt. I can choose to be offended. I can choose to not care. I can do all sorts of things. Or I can just let go of it and let it pass. And that for me was an immense lesson from program. Um, and combined with the obsessive thoughts, there's another choice for me. I can just let go of them. They're coming along. I can't beat them. I can't win. I can't overcome it, but I can let go of it. Can let go and let God, I guess, is one of those cliche type sayings. But oh my gosh, there's so much truth in cliche sayings when they make sense, when they understand, when the meaning comes alive. And program is like that for me. It's a living entity. It's a way of negotiating the world in all of its dimensions. Um, it's been one of the most useful things for me the day I realized that program is not just relevant to me and my behavior around food, but that it is relevant to me in all aspects of my life. In the way I show up in my relationships, my marriage, my parenting, my work, the way I show up in my home, and the way I show up in my head. It's all linked, and it is just, yeah, it permeates life, who I am. Um, and it doesn't get old. I'm one that quite likes to have different interests and something new going on and a new hobby or whatever. And program doesn't get old. I've been at it now for 4.5 years. I'm still here. That's good going for me. That's my track record is about 18 months. I can stick with something, and this is more than doubled. So, yeah, I'm going to shush now. I think we're probably close to time.
Yeah, just a gentle reminder, it's 5 minutes to go, but
Okay. Okay,
you don't
dokie.
have to keep going unless you
Thank you.
want to.
I will leave it there. Thank you so, so much for me to be able to share.
Thank you, Colette. That was a wonderful share, full of experience, strength, and hope. Let me just find my place in the script. So we'll now open the Q&A section of our meeting, which will also be recorded. So can I ask you to post your questions in the chat, and then we will ask the question on your behalf. Let's have a look. So Colette, got one already. Can you talk about how you find balance with all your service with Region 9 and working with sponsees, please?
Of course, yes. So, when I got elected into the board position for Region 9, I made a real I reviewed all of my service positions. I looked in which roles I was in at the time, and I looked at where I could focus my attention to make the biggest difference, and through taken it to higher power, and then let go of some of those positions. I was very aware of what I've heard of is service fatigue when you do so much service that it actually becomes another obsession. I've heard people that have had difficulty with that, and I had to negotiate and balance that carefully with with my other responsibilities. In terms of balancing that with my sponsees, so I've got three sponsees, and then I meet with a fellow who is a fellow in program, um, and we sort of growing together. And the way I work with that is I've got set times and really strict boundaries around it. So when I engage with my sponsees, I put really clear expectations around my availability, um, you know, when we meet, how long we meet for, how we meet, and if that is not able to be adhered to by either party, then due notice to be given so that we can make either alternative arrangements or cancel. And that works really well for me. So I've got very clear that time for service. This is how much I have available for sponsees, and I keep it at that. So I'm not just taking on more and more and more sponsees. And that works really well for me. So my average week, I would have some sort of a service interaction, probably 6 out of 7 days. Um, and most of the time, it's about an hour and a half out of the entire day. So I'm able to balance that quite well.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much for your helpful share, Colette. How do you work with sponsees who have an issue with relapse, given your personal journey?
My approach to sponsoring is really there to be a co-traveler. Everybody's journey is their journey, and I have got no place to make any judgment whatsoever if they are experiencing relapse or having difficulty to maintain abstinence. So my approach to that would be to focus on what's working, to keep the eye on the progress, because in my experience, when I was in food, the full focus was always on the food, and that didn't work for me. So by removing the focus from oh, this is not working, and I didn't do this, and I fell down here, and I made this mistake, is to go, yeah, okay, but look where you are now in terms of where you were a few months ago, or a year ago, or now you're aware of it at least. So being able to show the progression from being in program, from continuing to show up even when you're failing, even when you are having the times where the addiction is bigger and higher power feels far away. Yeah, that's how I approach it.
Thank you. Next question. How do you work every step every day? What does daily action look like? And what are your non-negotiables?
Okie dokie. A good question. Every step, every day. That's a good one. For me, non-negotiables is getting up in the morning. I'm up at 5 in the morning and I do a 20-minute meditation, during which I become quiet and connect with higher power. And I will read the For Today every day. And that's how I start my morning, non-negotiables. With that, I will go into a day and go about my activities with that connection with higher power, or as much and as far as I possibly can, to be aware, to be here. And what I mean with being aware and being here is not being off in my head, wandering around, making up fantasy stories, but to actually be here, to be present with what I'm doing right here at the moment. And I try as best I can to be present throughout my day, especially around meal times. Especially around meal times, because when I was in the food, meal times was a blur. It was oblivion. Where now my meals are very purposeful, they are deliberate, they are eaten at I've got a very almost, I don't want to say strict, but a very structured life. Partly because I am neurodivergent, but my partner is neurodivergent as well, and we both, unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize, but I actually flourish under really good structures. So my I'm realizing now I've gone off somewhere where every step every day non-negotiables. Okay, so meal times are mindful, 3 meals a day, with an optional snack, non-negotiable. The other thing, the non-negotiable, is a daily step 10 and a food plan to my sponsor, and it is 100% honest food plan to my sponsor. Even if on that day maybe there was a square of chocolate because somebody said I had to have it because it's very rare because it came from abroad. Even that goes onto my food list, and that is a non-negotiable for me. The steps in itself, I wouldn't be able to say, okay, every day I do all of these steps, but they are woven throughout my day.
That's great, thank you. The next question, actually, you just mentioned step 10. How do you go about doing a step 10?
Okay, my step 10 I do at the end of the day. I guess that's when we all do it. Was a format that was sent to me by my sponsor, a set of 4 questions. Questions consists of: how was my abstinence today? Were my emotions on my on my plate today, and if so, why? Or what was the situation around it? The third question: were any of my character defects triggered? And if so, how did higher power help me in that situation? And then the last question was: what lesson does higher power want me to learn today? And those 4 questions I reflect on every single day, and I run through my day looking at all the interactions. Maybe I had an interaction where I reacted very short. I can go back and go, oh, hang on a minute. Maybe I could have done that slightly differently. And maybe the lesson that I needed to learn from that is to XYZ. So I sort of reflect over my day.
That's great. Good questions. Thank you for your share. How did you build a relationship with your higher power? Did you find it difficult at first?
I think I'm very fortunate that I had some sort of a connection or just a knowing from a very young age, a knowing that no matter what, it's okay. And that is no matter what, it's okay. And that has always been with me. It's just this presence knowing that has been with me. Um, I didn't know as a child what it was. I grew up in a very Christian home, church on a Sunday, all of that. Went into my sort of early adulthood, started querying, looking around, and sort of in my late 20s found that the actual church concept and the box that they describe God needed to fit in didn't work in my understanding of God. My God didn't fit in a box. It was way bigger than anybody could ever understand from my perspective. So I went off the idea of religion and became very aware of my spirituality. And through that, my relationship with higher power has shifted and changed and evolved and grown. And many occasions, especially at the beginning of program, I was grappling with what is higher power? Who is it? How do I define? How to describe? Eventually, I just went, I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I know it's there. It works for me. Today it's like this. Tomorrow it might be something else. But more than anything, it's a gnosis. It's a something that I just know as an integral part of me, is that there is something greater than me that I am part of and that I am and that everybody else, I don't know. There's no words to describe the concept of the felt sense that I have of a higher power. So I guess it was an evolution, wasn't particularly difficult for me. I'm very lucky, I'm very grateful. Um, yeah.
That's great, thank you. What's your view on whether the steps should be done quickly or slowly?
I don't have a view on it. Um, I think it's an individual journey. Some people, will want to do it quickly or will find that they move through it quickly. Personally, I've only know of one individual that gone through the steps really fast because that was the program that they got into and the people around them worked through the steps with them. I think it was a matter of 2 weeks. My personal experience was it took me a really, really long time, and I'm quite okay with that. It felt right, and the pacing of it worked very well for me. Um, and currently, I'm working through the steps in a very structured way as well, but it's taking time. It takes time. And my sponsees, similarly, they are working at their pace, and yeah, personally, so for me, each to their own. What is right for them, for you, for the individual.
That's great, thank you. Um, do you have any experience of bulimia or restrictive eating?
Bulimia, thank you, higher power. No, no, thankfully not. I remember in the desperate throes of illness where I was yet again go to bed with a stomach that stood out there from the amount of food that I've consumed just before bed. The desperation to get rid of the discomfort was so huge that I considered it once. But it was like a little voice said to me, if you do this, you cross another line and you just don't want to. So thank you, higher power. No, no bulimia. Restrictive eating, yes. I would be, yeah, restricting very often. Yeah, restricting binging was sort of my, and constant grazing was my food behavior, food patterns. Yeah.
Thank you. Um, Thank you so much for your share. Have you worked the steps using the OA 12 and 12?
I have indeed. I love it. It was the first time I worked through the steps. I used the 12 and 12. I also used the 12 and 12 working with my sponsees, and I still refer to it very, very regularly. I find the big book process of working the steps interesting, but more from a geeky perspective than an actual, not an actual, just from the almost the way it came about. I find quite magical. You know, how the whole big book and 12-step program came about, being a spiritual inspiration itself. I find it's gained a lot of depth for me, I guess. Programs gained a lot of depth through big book, but I love the accessibility of the 12 and 12.
Thank you. Um, how do you consciously connect with your higher power through the day?
I start, as I've mentioned before, I start my day in contact, and then I have visual reminders right throughout my home and even on my body. I've got a tattoo right here on my hand that says "Let go." So whenever I'm like, oh yeah, let go. Remember that. When I turn to my side, I've got the Serenity Prayer to my right. I have got little slate signs because Wells is slate, right? So why not slate written with ink pen, a white ink pen, the messages that gives me those little anchors of, oh yeah, okay, don't get too involved. It's not personal. It's okay. Let it go. So I have those peppered throughout my house and life. I surround myself with people who are awake and in touch with a higher power, which makes it very easy to stay present and in contact with higher power.
Thank you. In what ways have you and your life changed as a result of working the steps and connecting with your higher power, aside from the freedom from the obsession with food?
Wow. How do you quantify that? In every way. Um, I will. Let's try the most profound changes. Let's go with that. Self-acceptance. This last year, I've been on an incredible journey. Working through the steps second time round, I really got face to face with self-acceptance of most part of me. There are still some. There are still some hiding in some corners, but I feel more able to address them at the time when appropriate. The self-acceptance that I received for just being okay with who I am, how I am right now, is just what a relief. What a relief that I don't have to try and be something I'm not, be something that I think someone else wants me to be. All of that mental energy and resources in whole doing this facade, just being free of that is been life changing, life changing. So that for me at the moment is the big thing. It changes all the time. There's different lessons at different times, but at the moment for me that is the most profound.
Thank you. Thank you for your share. How do you direct sponsees who are coming out of relapse with their food?
Um, Again, I think food plans. Well, I encourage my sponsees to keep a food plan. I invite them to share it with me should they feel that would be helpful for them. Purely from a support perspective, nowhere near from a judgment perspective. Um, for me, what they eat and what they don't eat isn't as important as the relationship they have with what they eat and how they eat it. Um, I know that might sound very flippant, but quite frankly, what other people eat is none of my business, really. Um, my part is there to, I guess, walk alongside the journey, to hear the struggles, to go, yeah, feel you, I get it. There's some stuff that I've tried, and sometimes it's worked. Take what you want and leave the rest. Um, yeah, and I think the thing with relapse is just to be compassionate and kind and accepting and non-judgmental and unconditionally, positively valuing of that person. Because every other time when it's happened, when the diet has failed, or whatever the case may be, it was always surrounded by shame and guilt and self-hatred and chastising and all of that. It doesn't work. So why do it? Do the other thing, do the opposite thing.
Thank you. When you feel self-will taking hold, how do you turn to God?
I have learned that when I push my self-will and it's not meant to be, that it just doesn't happen. And I've learned this it's this nuance around when it's that fine balance with really wanting something and being willing to work for it in order to manifest that, versus pushing something up a hill to make it happen because I really want it to happen. There's a very fine nuance between it. And when I'm pushing something up a hill, I know I'm in self-will. And the moment I become aware of that, that nuance, that awareness, that hang on, my motivations behind this is not God's will, I then let go as best I can. Sometimes grumpily and really wanting to and bumping my feet, but I know if it's not in God's plan, I can make it happen, but it'll be a pig's ear. It won't be half as magnificent as if I just stood back and let it happen and unfold in God's way, which is always way beyond the most incredible imagination I can have. 10 times better, 20 to 100 times better. So it pays off to actually go, all right, let's see how does this unfold, because I can't possibly imagine it. So embracing those times.
Thank you. I think we've got one more. I feel like we're thoroughly grilling you, but you're sharing all this experience,
I
strength, and
feel
hope. It's
thoroughly
fantastic.
grilled.
Could you say a bit more about how you have such deep self-acceptance?
Honesty. Which one is it? The spiritual principle. Is it step 1? I can't remember now. I don't know the steps off by heart. I get to, I think, about step 3, and then I have to refer to some literature. Where we are, 12 traditions. Luckily, I've always got something closer to here. Oh, this one doesn't say. It's in the 12 of 12. I think the spiritual principle, is it for step 1, is honesty? No, I can't remember which one. Is it 1? Yes, I've got the finger. Yes, it is 1. It starts there. If I'm not able to be 100% honest with myself, how on God's earth am I ever going to be able to accept it? So I have to be honest about it before I can even make a start on the journey to acceptance. And that's been tough for me. Oh my gosh, that's been tough, because there's some stuff I really don't want to be honest about. But it is so. The fact that I don't want to be honest about it is not going to make it not so. So I've learned the lesson to, as best I possibly can, be as honest as I can with myself to start with. And from there on, I can be honest with everyone else. And part of that honest being with self is being able to go, yep, there is a part of me that is really meh. I don't particularly like it, but I didn't choose it, but it's still part of me. So it gives me grief if I ignore it. It can become an ally if I accept it. It gives me more peace.
That's fabulous. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, so the Q&A section has now come to a close, and thank you so much, Colette, for all of the experience, strength and hope you've brought today.